Here's something most people get completely wrong about self-love. It's not standing in your bathroom mirror in the morning, forcing yourself to say, "I am enough, I am worthy, I am beautiful," until you sort of start to believe it. That version of self-love is surface level. It's fragile. It cracks the moment life gets hard. Real self-love, the kind that actually transforms your relationships, your patterns, your entire reality, is born in a completely different place. It's born in the moments when you're willing to look at the parts of yourself you've spent years hiding. The darkness, the wounds, the shame you buried so deep you almost forgot it was there. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, spent his entire career studying this. And what he discovered is something that most of us are never taught. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you haven't healed. That's not some feel-good Instagram quote. That's a fundamental truth about how human psychology works. And once you really understand it, you will never look at your relationships the same way again. Think about it. From the time we were kids, growing up in our families, our schools, our neighborhoods, we learned something really quickly. We learned that certain parts of ourselves were not okay. Maybe you were told you were too sensitive. Maybe you were told you were too much or not enough. Maybe you got the message that being vulnerable made you weak, or that needing things from people was inconvenient or annoying. So you did what any smart kid does. You built a mask. You figured out which version of yourself got love, got attention, got approval, and you wore that version every single day. In your relationships, at your job, at family dinners, in your texts and your DMs, and your first dates. And the parts of you that didn't make the cut, you stuffed them down, locked them away, told yourself you'd deal with them later. But here's what Jung understood, and what most of us are slowly figuring out the hard way. Those parts don't disappear. They go underground. And then, quietly, almost invisibly, they start running your life. They shape how you love. They shape who you trust. They decide who you let in, and how far you let them in before you sabotage everything. Jung called this the shadow. It's not some mystical concept. It's just the collection of everything you've rejected about yourself. Every emotion you decided was too dangerous to feel. Every belief about your worth that you never fully examined. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you carry unhealed wounds, when somewhere deep inside you believe you're not quite lovable, not quite worthy, not quite good enough, you will unconsciously seek out people and relationships that confirm that belief. Not because you're broken, not because the universe is punishing you, but because your subconscious is trying to show you something. It's holding up a mirror and saying, "Look, right here, this is where you still need to heal." It's like when you keep dating the same type of person over and over again. Different face, different job, different Spotify playlist. But somehow the same emotional experience. The same hot and cold. The same feeling of never being fully chosen. The same cycle of hope and disappointment that leaves you exhausted. That's not bad luck. That's your inner world projecting itself onto your outer world, waiting for you to pay attention. One of the most painful patterns that comes out of this is when we go looking in other people for what we haven't given ourselves. We want a partner to make us feel worthy. We want someone to see us, really see us, and say, "You're enough, you're lovable, you matter." We want someone's love to prove that we're okay, but no amount of external love can fill an internal void. Not really, not permanently. You know this actually. You've probably experienced it. You've been in a relationship, maybe even a great one, and still felt that hollow ache. Still woken up at 3 a.m., wondering if you were really loved, really wanted, really safe. Because the love you were receiving could only reach as far as the love you believed you deserved. And here's the thing Jung said that stopped me in my tracks when I first came across it. The love you receive from the world will never exceed the love you have for yourself. That's the ceiling. You set it. you. But something extraordinary happens when you decide, really decide, to treat yourself with the kindness, respect, and care you've been handing out to everyone else. When you stop begging for validation and start genuinely giving it to yourself. When you stop abandoning your own needs to keep someone else comfortable. When you stop dimming your light so other people don't feel uncomfortable in the room. Something shifts. This almost magical thing happens. You stop needing to prove yourself to anyone. You stop clinging to relationships that have run dry. You stop accepting the emotional scraps, the almost love, the half-commitment, the "you know I care about you, I just have a lot going on right now." You start to realize that your love is not a bargaining chip. It's not something you hand over in exchange for someone else's approval. It's a gift, and gifts like that belong with people who can actually receive them. And when your energy changes, the world around you changes too. This is where people sometimes roll their eyes, because it sounds woo-woo, right? Change your vibe and change your life. But stay with me, because this is actually grounded in something real. When you stop operating from a place of need and fear, when you stop making decisions about love and relationships from the wound, people who were drawn to that wound, who were, in some ways, a match for it, start to drift away. At first, that feels like loss. It can feel like your world is shrinking. But what's actually happening is a clearing. The old energy is making room for something new. And the people who start showing up? They're different. They see you clearly. They meet you where you are. They don't need you to shrink or perform or earn your place in their lives. They just want you. The actual you. Jung called this the individuation process, the lifelong journey of becoming fully, authentically, courageously yourself. And he was clear that it's not comfortable. It involves confronting your own shadow, sitting with your own fears, and letting go of the versions of yourself and your relationships that no longer serve who you're becoming. Here's another thing that trips a lot of people up. We've all been hurt by someone. A partner who betrayed our trust. A friend who disappeared when things got hard. A family member who made us feel like we were never quite right. And the temptation, the very human temptation, is to point the finger out there. To say, they did this to me. They're the reason I'm like this. If it weren't for them, I'd be fine. But Jung offered a different framework. He said, the people who hurt you the most are often the most important messengers in your life. They're not your enemies. They're mirrors. They're showing you, in painful, hard-to-ignore ways, the exact wounds inside you that are asking to be healed. That doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you owe them another chance. It means you can choose to use the experience as information instead of just as pain. The question that changes everything isn't, why did they do this to me? The question is, what is this experience trying to show me about myself? That shift, from victim to witness, is where real transformation begins. Quiet, internal, but absolutely powerful. Think about the people in your life who have come and gone. Not all of them showed up for the same reason. Some came to teach you something you needed to learn. About boundaries, about worth, about what you're capable of surviving. Some came to challenge you in ways that forced you to grow. Some came to walk alongside you, to lift you up, to remind you what it feels like to be genuinely seen and supported. And some people only came to mark the end of a chapter, to be a mirror for a version of yourself you were ready to leave behind. The problem is, a lot of us try to make chapter people into lifelong characters. We keep them in the story long after they've served their purpose. We twist ourselves into knots, trying to hold on to something that was only ever meant to be temporary. Jung talked about this in the context of what he called individuation, the process of becoming whole. And one of the hardest parts of becoming whole is accepting that not every relationship is meant to last forever. But every relationship, every single one, leaves a mark that shapes you. Here's a truth that most modern dating culture doesn't talk about enough. Mature love, real, sustainable, deeply fulfilling love, doesn't work like the movies told us it would. It's not about finding someone who completes you. That whole "you complete me" thing, that's not love. That's codependency dressed up in a rom-com. Real love is two whole people choosing each other, not because they need each other to feel okay, but because they genuinely want to share a life. It's not about filling a void. It's about expanding what's already there. And the difference between a relationship that drains you and a relationship that nourishes you. That gap is enormous. In the draining ones, you're constantly giving, constantly shrinking, constantly managing someone else's emotions while quietly neglecting your own. You're performing love instead of experiencing it. In the nourishing ones, you're allowed to be exactly who you are. You're not auditioning. You're not proving anything. You're just present, and that's enough. If you've been exhausted in a relationship, if you're always the one trying harder, giving more, carrying the emotional weight for two people, that's your signal to pause and look inward. Ask yourself this: what part of me is allowing this dynamic to continue? Because here's the hard truth. No one can consistently make you feel less than without your participation. Not because it's your fault, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped honoring your own limits. You ignored the warning signs your gut was sending you. You told yourself it was fine when it wasn't. We stay in relationships that don't serve us not because we don't know better, but because we're afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid that this is as good as it gets. Afraid that leaving means we failed. But there's a question worth sitting with. Am I making this choice from love or from fear? Because when you start making choices from love, love for yourself, respect for your own heart, belief in your own worth, everything around you begins to shift. You stop accepting emotional breadcrumbs. You stop auditioning for roles in your own story. You stop settling for things that are below what your heart actually deserves. And in that space, that sometimes terrifying, sometimes liberating space, something remarkable starts to happen. Jung described it as synchronicity. This almost magical phenomenon where, once you align your internal world with your authentic truth, the external world starts to rearrange itself to match. Doors you didn't even know existed start to open. People who are genuinely aligned with who you're becoming start showing up. Not because you got lucky, not because the universe suddenly decided to be on your side, but because you changed your frequency. You became someone who could actually receive the things you'd been praying for. The universe, Jung believed, doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your vibration, to what you actually believe deep down about yourself and what you deserve. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They say they want a healthy relationship. They post about it on social. They visualize it before bed. But then, when a genuinely healthy person shows up, they panic. They self-sabotage. They find reasons it won't work. They unconsciously recreate the familiar chaos because, weirdly, that chaos feels like home. Because healing means letting go of control. It means trusting that what you're releasing was never really yours to begin with. That what's truly meant for you doesn't require you to chase it, manipulate it, or white-knuckle your way to keeping it. And that's terrifying for most people, especially in a culture that constantly tells you to hustle for everything, including love. Here's what often happens. People say all the right things. I'm done settling. I love myself. I'm choosing me. But then they text the ex at midnight. Then they make themselves small again to keep someone comfortable. Then they wonder why nothing changes. The universe isn't listening to what you say. It's reading what you do. Every time you stay somewhere that diminishes you, you're sending a signal. I don't believe I deserve better. Every time you pour your love into someone who can't receive it, who can't meet it, won't honor it, you're reinforcing the belief that this is your ceiling. Every time you compromise your peace to avoid being alone, you're teaching yourself that your peace is negotiable. Those are not character flaws, they're patterns. And patterns can be unlearned, but only once you become aware of them, and only once you get honest about where they came from. Jung said something that feels almost ruthlessly accurate. What you most need to find will be found in the place you least want to look. And in matters of love and relationships, that place is almost always inside yourself. Not in the next relationship. Not in a better partner. Not in circumstances finally lining up the way you've been waiting for. Inside, you. That's where the work is. If you've ever been in a relationship that left you emptier than it found you. If you've poured your whole heart into someone and got back the minimum. If you've ever felt invisible to someone who was supposed to see you, there's something important I want you to hear. You are not obligated to convince anyone to value you. You weren't put on this earth to earn your place in someone's heart. You weren't made to shrink yourself down to fit whatever mold someone else decided was good enough. You weren't designed to prove, over and over, that you're worthy of love. You were made to shine, fully, unapologetically. And the first person who needs to see that, truly see it, is you. The biggest obstacle to transformation. It's not the wrong person choosing you. It's your fear of letting go, of the familiar, of the known, even when the known is painful. We cling to what's comfortable, even when what's comfortable is killing us slowly. We choose the relationship we know over the silence we're afraid of. But here's what no one tells you about that silence. It's not empty. It's full. That quiet space you've been running from. That moment of being alone with yourself. It's actually where the most profound meeting of your life takes place. The meeting with you, your actual self. Not the performance, not the mask. Not the version of you that was built for other people's approval. When you finally sit with yourself in that silence, when you stop filling the space with noise and distraction and the wrong people, you discover something that changes everything. You were never as alone as you thought. There has always been a wholeness inside you. A deep, unshakable source of love and peace and worth that was there before anyone validated it, and will still be there long after everyone else is gone. You just couldn't find it because you kept looking in the wrong places. When you find that source, when you genuinely tap into it, you stop chasing. You stop running toward people who aren't really running toward you. You stop performing love and start being it. And the extraordinary thing is this: the love you used to beg for starts finding you. Not because you changed your strategy, not because you followed some rule, because your energy changed, your frequency changed. You became someone who radiates from a place of fullness instead of scarcity. You attract people who are also operating from that place. The relationships you build from that foundation, they feel different. They don't feel like a constant negotiation. They don't feel like a power struggle. They don't feel like you're always one wrong move away from losing everything. They feel like flow, like ease, like coming home. There's no anxiety, no second guessing, no emotional roller coaster that leaves you dizzy and depleted. Just peace and openness. And the simple grounding feeling of being genuinely, freely chosen. If you've been asking yourself why you keep attracting the same kind of pain, why you keep ending up in the same emotional situations with different people, the answer isn't out there. The answer is an inside job. It's not about finding better people. It's about becoming the version of yourself that naturally attracts and sustains better connections. And equally important, that can recognize and release the ones that aren't real. That process takes time. It takes courage. It takes the willingness to sit with your own discomfort instead of outsourcing it to another relationship. But here's what's on the other side. A version of you that doesn't need to beg, that doesn't need to perform, that doesn't spiral when someone doesn't text back because your worth was never tied to their response. A version of you that loves deeply, not from desperation or loneliness or fear, but from genuine abundance, from a heart that's full. And when you love from that place, the people who belong in your life will feel it, and the people who don't, they'll naturally drift away, not because you push them, but because they simply can't match the frequency you're living at anymore. Jung described the process of becoming whole, individuation, as the most important journey a human being can take. Not because it makes life easier, but because it makes life real. Authentic. Yours. It means walking out of the old patterns and into the person you were always capable of becoming. And the beautiful, painful, completely honest truth is, you can't take that journey holding on to everyone you've ever known. Some of them belong to the chapter you're closing. Not every relationship is meant to survive your growth. Some of them were only ever meant to show you who you were, so that you could figure out who you want to be. Endings aren't always losses. Sometimes an ending is exactly the gift your soul has been asking for, even when you didn't have the courage to ask for it yourself. Here's the question I want to leave you with, and I hope you'll actually sit with it instead of just letting it scroll past. Are you ready to let go of what isn't yours anymore? Are you ready to stop waiting for someone to come along and hand you the sense of value you've been looking for, and start finding it within yourself? Because it was never about them, not the ex who left, not the person who chose someone else, not the relationship that fell apart. Every one of those experiences was a door leading you back to yourself. Every loss, every lesson, every moment you thought you were falling apart, they were all pointing to the same place, you. And when you choose yourself, when you love yourself without conditions, without apology, without hesitation, life responds the only way it knows how. It chooses you back. That transformation doesn't happen because you figured out the right words to say. It doesn't happen because you downloaded the right app or followed the right advice. It happens in the quiet moments when you decide to stop betraying yourself, when you decide that your peace matters more than their approval, when you decide that your heart is worth protecting, not gambling away, when you choose peace over fear, self-respect over the desperate need to be accepted, when you finally understand that the only person who can truly save you is you, not a relationship, not a lucky break, not someone riding in at the right moment to make everything okay. You. And from that moment on, your whole life starts to move differently. The chaos settles, the drama fades, the relationships that were held together by obligation and fear fall away. And the ones that remain, and the new ones that come, they're different, lighter, realer, built on something that actually lasts. Because at the end of the day, the love you were looking for was never somewhere else. It was always here, in you, waiting. It was waiting for the moment you finally believed you were worth finding. If this video hit something real for you, if something in here shifted the way you're thinking about your relationships, your patterns, or the way you've been treating yourself, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Not everyone has someone in their life telling them this. You might be that person for someone else today. And if you want to go deeper into the psychology of self-worth, relationships, and how your inner world shapes everything around you, subscribe and turn on notifications. We go there every single week. And real quick, drop a comment below. Tell me, what's one thing you're finally letting go of? I read every single one. See you in the next one.